Annette. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. My name is Katie Walters. I'm the Executive Director of Leadership Kitsap. And on behalf of our Board of Directors, it's my privilege to welcome you to LIFT, Kitsap Women's Leadership Network. If you are new to LIFT, we are a community leadership development program hosted by Leadership Kitsap. And currently, we are holding virtual lunchtime gatherings such as this, as well as hosting a growing Facebook group. We seek to address issues important to our community's women leaders, such as today's topic of childcare. And we offer these places for us to come together, to connect, learn, communicate, and just really share our common experiences. We chose the name LIFT based on Melinda Gates' quote, "When you lift up women, you lift up everybody, families, communities, entire countries." So we'd like to thank Leadership Kitsap executive sponsors, the Kitsap Community Foundation, the Point Casino and Hotel, and Port Madison Enterprises. And especially thank you to today's virtual platform sponsor, KEDA. We have a really great program planned for you today. And it really is a continuation of a conversation that began in February at the Kitsap Economic Development and Alliance's annual economic forecast meeting. And they shared a panel discussion about education, career, stress, and balance, COVID-19's impact on working women. And one of the greatest stressors this past year has really been childcare. It's a topic that is vital to working parents, employers, and our community's economic recovery. It's a really important conversation. I'm glad we can host that today. And I know, like many of you, I know my past career decisions were all based on reliable childcare. So it's an important conversation. We want to thank KEDA again for sponsoring our virtual platform so we can have this venue to talk about this. And we'll get into it. So to lead today's discussion, it's my pleasure to introduce you to Leadership Kitsap board member, mother of two beautiful daughters, and executive director of St. Michael Medical Center, Sarah Chamberlain. Someone who knows firsthand the challenges of balancing a career and childcare. So Sarah, I'm going to turn it over to you. And the conversation, and of course, the quote for the year. Sarah, you're
my mic is Hi, I'm here.
Thanks,
So what I said when my mic was off was thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today. As Katie mentioned, I'm the executive director of St. Michael Medical Center Foundation, and she has like my direct quote. I'm a mother of two beautiful daughters, Sydney and Cora. They are 5 and 7. So I know exactly what everyone here has been going through this last almost, we're entering into what, a year and a half, definitely more than a year of having children not in school as they normally have been. And that has been full of ups and downs, challenges, not only with childcare, but I know many of you out there as well as myself had a huge mental challenge with trying to balance work, school, being a mother, being a wife, daughter, all of these things, right? So definitely we have felt the extra challenges over the last year. And so we are going to talk about that today. I'm extra excited and honored to be talking with the group of women that we have on our panel today. So let me introduce them. We have with us Monica Blackwood. She is the president and CEO and owner of West Sound Workforce. And she, in her work in staffing, recruiting, and HR, Monica finds fulfillment in seeing people use their skills and talents to become successful in their professional lives. Her belief is ultimately a community's workforce is what allows all in it to thrive. Monica serves on several boards and organizations as a volunteer on causes that align with economic development, education, workforce training, HR, and diversity. So welcome, Monica.
Thank you.
And next we have Rikki Picarello from Boys and Girls Club. She's the branch manager of the Bremerton branch and Madrona South Kitsap branch, where she oversees virtual and in-person programs. And shout out to Boys and Girls Club. My city and Cora both go there, and Rikki has been very helpful in bringing my mental health back to where it should be through this pandemic. So the shout out to Boys and Girls Club. So they offer spaces for children and teens to learn, create, and attain their best in academics, athletics, and much, much more. This year, in-person programming is all day for children on remote learning days. And then they also offer before and after school care for those attending school in person or a hybrid model. So welcome, Rikki. And next we have Renee Hernandez-Greenfield. She is the director of the Annette B. Weyerhauser Early Learning Center at Tacoma Community College, as well as the adjunct instructor for the Early Childhood Education Program with an emphasis on special needs at the college. The Early Learning Center provides TCC students care for children ages 1 month to 5 years. Renee's experience includes working in tribal communities, within the military communities, and among immigrant populations. She is also a graduate of Leadership Kitsap class of 2017. So welcome, Renee, and all three of you wonderful ladies. Thank you so much for putting aside some time in your very busy schedules to join us and help share resources that we have to offer to our working moms in need. So even before the pandemic, childcare was one of the greatest challenges for Kitsap's working women. And now the pandemic and limited in-person schooling has exaggerated this challenge tremendously. And according to the Association of Washington Business, childcare is a necessity for thousands of Washington families and is a critical component of economic recovery. So together, let's explore how we can support one another during this time of increased responsibilities. And so to the audience, I just want to say, as we go through this presentation, if you have any questions at all, like Katie mentioned earlier, please add them to the Q&A tab. Katie and I will be moderating that and going through and making sure all of your questions get answered. And you can also upvote your questions from someone else. If someone else asks another question. So let's go ahead and get started. Again, feel free to share resources in the chat, and then we can share resources afterwards when we go back to the tables. So we're just going to work down the line of panelists here. We're going to have the same questions for all of you. So we'll start with Monica. From your perspective, what is the biggest childcare challenge facing families, working parents, and employers right now?
Gosh, that's such a multifaceted answer.
A little loaded out the gate, yeah.
I want to start by saying that COVID has removed 2 million women from the workforce, and that's over the course of the last 14 months. Which means that's almost 143,000 women per month. And to give a little perspective to that would be Bremerton, Port Orchard, Paulsbo, Silverdale, and 2 Bainbridges each month, right? That's crazy. So care is obviously a huge part of that, whether it's childcare or elder care. I've had an employee who had to leave the workforce, leave her position early on in this because she was also the caregiver for her elderly grandmother, and she hasn't yet been able to return. I've had another mom employee in December say that she needed to leave the workforce or leave her job because her teenage daughter, while she could be home alone for a number of hours, and feed herself and be safe and all of that. She was struggling so much with school that the mom needed to be there to help her manage her daughter's education. And so it's just crazy how this is all impacting everyone, and women are a part of that for sure. I think that there's a lot that employers can do to continue the conversation of being flexible and having the appropriate benefits that help support women and any caregiver, obviously, to be successful. But I'm also really interested in having a broader conversation where we just completely wipe the slate clean and we bring in all sorts of industries and aspects of our economy and our community, because in some ways I feel like a lot of this is being put on the shoulders of employers, and yet have a conversation with the childcare providers, with the school districts, with the government, all of that, so that we can figure out a better way where we can adjust our society in the way that we work, to be able to accommodate all of this. So,
well said. Well said. Thank you for that. I will look forward myself to that broader conversation. I think there are a lot of untapped ideas out there from each and every perspective that exists. So we really all just need to put our heads together and figure out, because we all know that this isn't going to end next month, probably not next school year. So coming together and really putting our thinking hats and the think tank together is going to do us all a tremendous amount of good. So thank you for bringing that to light. Rikki, what do you have to say on this subject? So I'll repeat the question. From your perspective, what is the biggest child care challenge facing families, working parents, and employers?
Yeah, so I think that the challenge has been the same for a very long time, as I think we are all aware that the lack of affordable and quality childcare just isn't there, and it doesn't fit the needs of families. And particularly now we're seeing that through the pandemic, it's been extremely challenging for the families that we're serving to find not only childcare, but childcare that can support their distance learning or hybrid learning, and be able to transition with the flow of the schools and how they're transitioning. And then also support that social and emotional learning piece for the kiddos, because this change, as we can see here, is a lot on us. It's a lot on the kids that we're serving in these childcare programs too. And the need for socialization during this time has been critical. And what I'm hearing from the families we're serving is those two main things. They, of course, need the childcare so that they're able to continue work and to support their families, but they're looking for childcare that can support the needs of their kiddos through this time too. And that's the socialization and really helping the academic side of it. Our staff here at the Boys and Girls Club, we're not teachers. We have tried to adapt as best as possible. And for us, it was really just to give some perspective, adapting our whole program from just an after school program to a full day distance or hybrid learning program. We're open 7 to 6. Is it still fitting the needs of all of our families and working parents? No, unfortunately not, but it is much better than what we were able to do previously. And then to share a little bit perspective on a challenge we're still facing that's really impacting the amount of kids that we can serve. We were able to serve, just in our Bremerton branch alone, the average 75 kiddos a day. Now we're able to serve max 36, and that's to make sure that we're following, guidance from CDC and Department of Health. So very important, but that just split our program in half. And then when we bring in the challenge of being able to staff for that program, right now, even though we can have a capacity of 36, we only have enough staff in place to serve half of that number as well. So we've gone in the past, I think Monica said about 14 months here, from serving an average of 75 youth a day to 18 youth a day. And that's been a huge impact on our families. And so for us right now, it's really working on one, finding individuals who can work and want to come back into the workforce, and finding more space. And I believe it's going to be continuing to build partnerships through conversations like this, As Monica mentioned too, I completely agree that it's going to take everyone coming together, childcare programs, the government, school districts, to really look at how we are going to overall meet the needs of this childcare crisis that we're going through, and particularly women.
Right. Well, I like I mentioned earlier, shout out to you guys. You guys have been, my girls have been there since the beginning of the year. And the change in their personalities has been tremendous since learning in the dining room and then going back to school and being with you guys in the afternoons. And you guys have along the way made adjustments to try to make it fit. I know for our family personally, it's been amazing the work that you guys have put in. So congratulations to you guys on really working with the restrictions that you guys have and trying to make it work for as many families as possible that you can. I know it's a huge challenge. And the statistics that you just shared of having to cut down, I did not know that, and that is shocking to me. And I feel for the families that need your support and can't because of the restrictions that are in place. So yeah, I'm shocked by those numbers actually. So
It was hard to say out loud for a minute. I was reflecting on that last night, and then overall, I miss just the sound of all the kids in the building. Right now, I'm in the building, and there's kids here, and it's quiet because it's distance learning, but it's not the same. But primarily for those families that we can't serve.
Right, absolutely, and you guys do an amazing job. So thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
All right, Renee, you're up. So what, from your perspective, what have been the biggest challenges that have faced working women, families, and employers?
Well, we'll start with families, families and working parents, access and affordability. Rikki, you shared that cap where, for all of us that are being mindful and following the health guidelines, it does cut down on how many little ones can be in a space, little or big ones. Another issue is, quality and safety that support all children. So that includes children that are neurodivergent, so those with special needs. Hours of operation, that support learning happening partially virtual. Maybe they're going a little bit in person. And so just those so it's an early taxing to find a place that can support all of those things. The Institute for Women's Policy Research shared some really huge numbers about, they did a policy brief in July of 2020, that spoke about student parents. And, President Biden talked about it a little last night about that 12 years of schooling isn't enough to stay competitive in the world in terms of education. So we have a lot of single mothers in college in those 2-year institutions working on degrees. The Institute for Women's Policy Research shared that 53% of student parents in any of these community colleges, the 2-year undergraduate, have children under the age of 6. And it actually goes up more for those that are 6 to 17. And so 2 million of those, so for student parents, who are over 2 million of those are women, are holding essential jobs and parenting young children. And they can't work from home. They need to be able to be in person and have that access to care. So that's huge. So that's for families and working parents. For employers, Rikki, you shared about that, and I absolutely agree with you. Being able to manage loss in our revenue and keep from closing or downsizing personnel in the middle of this emergency. So for our industry, we ourselves are impacted by Quit K-12 as parents. So my son goes to the YMCA here at East Port Orchard, right? And for a hot minute, we couldn't find care as the caregivers, especially if you had a child that was in middle school or maybe even high school. My child has some special needs, so he needs to be able to be in care. He's not one of those little ones that could be at home alone. And that's a big one. And for employers too, being able to pay a true living wage and provide benefits. So in our industry, a large gap is that we're not subsidized in the way that K-12 is. We're not considered basic education in that way. So we don't charge the true cost of care, even though it is exorbitantly expensive, it doesn't, we just know it. Well, our community couldn't pay the actual cost, right? So unfortunately, that leaves us this. We have to pass cost to parents, and that's hard for an employer to know. And also, walking with our own teachers who have to leave their positions sometimes because they need to be home. Even me having to work partly from home as I am today, and being able to manage that when our industry isn't designed that way as an essential situation too. So those are my, and also with Rikki, our building, we are licensed and able to care for 91 children. We're serving 36 in person. And that, which is a huge difference. And in order to be safe and not get anyone sick, to be able to be operational for the next 40 some years, right? And so, thank you for asking these great questions.
Yeah, well, I appreciate your answer, Renee. And I think something, you didn't say the word exactly, but you implied the flexibility amongst employers. Kind of going back to what Monica was saying, that it falls on the employers to have to make these adjustments. And so how do we really navigate through? I mean, as mothers, we all know that we're being extremely flexible, but we're able to be flexible because our employers are allowing us to be flexible. And so for anyone like myself, I'm extremely grateful for the amount of flexibility that has been given to me through my employer. But that's not possible for every working family out there. So it's really, really challenging. So thank you for bringing the flexibility part up, that we all have to be flexible with each other. And I know that's been said many, 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 many times throughout this last year when the pandemic started. But we'll move on to our next question. We'll go back to Monica. And this is about resources, which your organization is full of them. So can you speak to the ones that are really helpful to us working women, working women in general? If there's resources that you have with childcare, please share those. But please share more about what Workforce is able to do, or any other resources in the community that you're aware of.
So resources are huge, and one of the things that I just absolutely love to do is connect people, and that's part of connecting resources as well. And so West Sound Workforce, we're interesting because we have our internal team, and then we have all of our employees that are actually out on site at our employer partners, right? And so depending on where an employee is assigned to, the resources are going to be different the way that our organization is set up, because that employer that they're on site with is going to have their own unique challenges and their own unique ways of supporting one another. But one of the things that we encourage everybody in our organization to do, and I encourage it in all organizations, is to continue to have an open dialogue with managers, supervisors, and HR, because that's where you're going to be able to come up with a solution. And as leaders in organizations and HR folks in organizations, be curious about what's going on with your employees, because they might not come out and say something unless they're asked. They might not even realize that they're dealing with something unless they're asked the question. And so I think the biggest resource I could give really is just maintaining that level of communication. Aside from that, I'm huge on the mental health aspect and how this wears on all of us, and women for sure. So as employers, be cognizant of that, and if you can, train your team in mental health awareness, and there's the mental health first aid aspect in there. Childcare providers, we have a list of them, whether or not they're able to accommodate our team member calling them and saying, hey, I have 2 kids and I need two spots. Maybe they can, maybe they can't, but we encourage and continue to have conversations with local childcare providers as well. So that's what I have.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. Rikki, do you want to expand on some of the resources that Boys and Girls Club offers to our families?
Yes, absolutely. So Here at the Boys and Girls Club, we know that the cost of childcare is a barrier, and our policy is that we do not want to turn anyone away due to the inability to pay. So we have different options. We really work with our families. Yes, there is a fee that comes along with it, but given whatever those circumstances are that the family is going through, we will work with them to find what best fits their circumstances. This year, what we've done, we've moved into the licensed childcare arena. That is new for me. I believe our organization had been in that area for previously, but we transitioned and we're now licensed to be able to also offer the Working Connections childcare subsidy as an option for our families. Not only for our families to receive a lower co-payment compared to what it would actually cost for our monthly program, but also to help sustain our program too. Additionally, private scholarships. So really just working with our families and seeing what we can do to make sure that they can have access to our program. We're currently working with our school district in South Kitsap to determine how we can get back in there, because through the pandemic, we did have to close that program, but we're hopeful that we're going to be back there soon so that we can also provide an option in the South Kitsap area for our families too. A couple other things I just wanted to add in that's not traditional for our program, but we have in support of the grab and go meals that schools are doing, we're also providing that at our site for the community. So we're not only serving meals for our families, or sorry, our kiddos on site, but for any kiddos in the community, for families that cannot make it to a school to pick up those meals, they can come to our site. I'll be sure to share that information with everyone. And then also we have a family resiliency program that can offer support to any families that are just in need of just household items, food items, pantry, staples. So please share that out. All they have to do is give us a call, and then we can work on finding those items for them.
Wonderful. That's fantastic. I didn't know you guys did that either. So bravo to you guys. Renee, your organization, what resources do you guys have to offer our families in need?
The first thing that came to mind was the help we're rendering to our fellow community college partners, is their other childcare campus children's centers that are working hard to reopen to operate safely. So out of 23 campus children's centers across our state that are tied to different technical community colleges, 4 of us were able to remain open throughout the pandemic experience. So that's the first place to help our community, is to be sure to render assistance, the technical assistance, the know-how to get 4-year-olds to practice wearing masks. 5-year-olds, how to do these things, right? Those things that are called upon to do to help our community college partners be able to get that moving so they can be operational and support their communities. So I was working very closely with our Sophia Bremer, their Olympic College, where I did my practicum when I was attending OC, to open again, to be able to be that help for Bremerton in the area. We operate an ECAP and an Early Head Start childcare partnership program. That's our first big one, where it's grant funded, preschool, and for our families that are in need of be able to access preschool. That's our first one. The subsidy, our childcare subsidies program, absolutely is a huge need. We don't cap the number of children on childcare subsidy. Unfortunately, that is a trend we're seeing among some partners out there who that subsidy reimbursement from the state is not high. And so some programs, due to kind of tied back to that earlier question about the effects on the employer, are making that business decision not to accept children on childcare subsidy. So, which is an unfortunate issue. And so we're not doing that. And so that's an area. Also, we're so excited. We actually were awarded a C-Campus grant. C-Campus is Childcare Access Means Parents and Schools, which means that if you're in college and you keep your GPA above a 2.0, do well, persist each quarter, are registered for 10 credits, we can pay your childcare tuition.
Wow.
And so we're so excited about that. It's a 4-year grant, and we follow the student parent. We have a family advocate on staff. We are integrated in all areas of the college. So OC was also applying for it as well. And so again, that technical assistance between each of the community colleges throughout our state, so we can, and as also a priority of Senator Murray for our CTCs to be able to help families in this way. Also, the same as Rikki was sharing, we were also able to do some grab and go lunches during the summer, kind of in that same vein as the school district we're doing, which childcare centers tend to not be awarded those types of summer USDA contracts. And it was, hey, pandemic, new for everything, right? And so they were like, yeah, you guys can do that. And so we were able to offer that as well. And of course, that 2-generation model was so important. A lot of our families are first generation college students. The majority of our families are new immigrants to the United States. And so we can easily have up to 7 or 8 different languages spoken in our school other than English. And so we're navigating those. And so really understanding and wrapping ourselves around the family. And I get to walk both sides of the bridge, as I say. I work in Tacoma, but these things impact, the work of the, Leadership Kitsap has definitely trickled over there to Pierce County. So we help each other. So yeah, those are what we're sharing. Thanks for asking.
Wonderful. There's so many resources out there. I hope everyone is feeling a little more comfortable with reaching out and asking questions, figuring out what might work best for them and their families if there's a need. But let's go to questions. Do we have any questions out there? Go ahead and use the Q&A panel up at the top right part of your screen. There is a Q&A, chat participants Q&A. So go ahead and type in your question if you have one for the entire panel or for any of the panelists specifically. We'll give you a little bit of time to enter some in. Katie, if you had any questions come in beforehand, let me know and I can ask those.
We haven't had any questions come in, but what we can do is we can go directly to the floor, back to the floor right now if you like. And Monica, Renee, and Rikki, I invite you to sit at different tables. And if anyone would like to speak directly to any of our panelists, then you can do that. So we'll take a moment to go back to the floor. Also explore, when you're there, you can explore the different tabs and the different tables if there's other people you want to talk to. And then we'll bring it back at 12:55. Do you have anything else, Sarah, before we head to the floors?
No other questions. I'll be out there also if anyone has any questions for me. So I don't have my picture up, so find a purple S is what I'm colored today.
So great. Yeah. So when you're back to the floor, please share any of your feedback with your table about today's conversation and any resources. And you can also include those resources in chat. So we'll see you back in about a few minutes. We'll back at the tables, 12:55 back here. I'll give you a little warning sign. And thank you again, Sarah, Renee, Monica, Rikki. We so appreciate your time and your expertise today. I just really want to thank all of you for spending part of your day with us. Thank you again to Monica, Rikki, Renee, Sarah. Thank you for keeping this conversation going. And to keep it going, please share any of your resources or parts of your conversation if you want to on our Lift Facebook group. If you haven't joined us yet, click the link when we get back to the floor. It'll take you to ask to join the Facebook group, and we'll get you in there right away. And also want to invite you to celebrate our community's 20 under 40 honorees with us. I saw quite a few of you. There's quite a few of our 20 under 40 on with us today. So thank you. We have both in-person and virtual tickets available. And we are also taking applications for the next Leadership Kitsap class, the class of 2022. We had paused this year's class, so we're really excited to be back next year. We're going to be in person. Those applications are due on June 1st. So please spread the word about that. Again, there's links when you get back to the floor to all of those sites. And of course, to our There's also a link to KEDA if you want to learn a little bit more. And we really want to thank them again for sponsoring our virtual platform. Thank you, Kathy Cotis. I saw you were on here today. I didn't get a chance to pop over and say hi. So thank you again to the Kitsap Economic Development Alliance for sponsoring today's virtual platform. We find these networking webinars are just a fun and engaging way to connect. And so thank you. And we just know our community needs strong community leadership more now than ever. It's our path to recovery. And we're just really excited about Kitsap's future. And so thank you again for engaging with us. Thank you for your leadership. And now I'll return you back to the floor. The floor closes at a hard stop at 1:30, but you're welcome to continue your great conversation. So thank you again. See you next time.